Wisconsin 54 here. I want to talk to you about some things that are a little frustrating to me. I've been teaching concealed carry and shooting and NRA staff for a number of years, and every time I teach a class, especially a concealed carry class in the state where I live, there is a requirement in there to teach about a federal law called the the Gun-Free School Zones law, and it is very frustrating every time I teach it, because this is a federal law that was passed the first time by H.W. Bush in the 90s, and I personally don't believe H.W. Bush was a friend of patriots or conservatives or even gun guys or gals. I think he was a professional politician that was just simply there to gain power and money, and I think he was pretty much, well, I won't say. I'll just leave it at that. Just say I don't think he was a friend of mine. And it was originally passed under his administration. I think the Supreme Court eventually found that it had some flaws in it, and it was set aside. And then later Bill Clinton came into office, and Bill Clinton picked it back up when he was trying to get through a bunch of what he called crime bills, and he was looking to be tough on crime. Of course, he was also being tough on a lot of stuff that now Democrats are not being very tough on, like immigration and other things. But at the time, it was in fashion for Bill to be tough on crime. So he resurrected this Gun-Free School Zones law, and the Gun-Free School Zones law, in order for it to pass and be effective across all 50 states, they devised a way to make that happen. So they realized that if they made it a commerce bill, meaning a commerce, interstate commerce, where trucks and trains and things take goods and stuff across state lines, and because there was already precedent at the federal government level, probably the Supreme Court level, to take commerce across state lines, that was considered a federal jurisdiction that was granted under the Constitution. So they figured that if they made this a law as a commerce law, then they could legally force it to be binding across all 50 states. So that's what they did. They made it a commerce law. And it was attached to the back of the omnibus spending bill that, of course, that goes through every year to fund the government. And, of course, politically, nobody's going to, at least in those days, nobody was going to say, no, we're not going to vote for this spending bill, because, of course, as you know, all politicians love to spend money. And it doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats, they all love to spend money, because that's how they get reelected. They buy their way back in. But so it passed, and it was on the back of the spending bill, and it went through, because there is no line item veto for bills going through. So it was changed slightly to fix the things the Supreme Court, I think, had originally objected to. So as the bill stands right now, it's been in effect for a number of years, and basically what it says is that anything from K through 12, so kindergarten through 12th grade, public schools, that no gun can come within 1,000 feet of the school. So from the school building out 1,000 feet is a gun-free zone, and no guns can be transported or can be conveyed, because after all it is a commerce law, no guns can be conveyed through that 1,000-foot zone. So that means that if you're traveling through next to a school, you go by a school on your way to somewhere, and you got a gun in your car, or you're going to the shooting range, or you're going hunting or something, technically you may be in violation of that law. Now, they did make some exceptions, and there were some Republicans on there. I don't think they were very good Republicans. One of them was Orrin Hatch from Utah, and I was born and raised in Utah, and I don't really think much of Orrin Hatch. He's retired now anyway, but he allowed this bill to get through, and so I didn't ever see him as a friend of mine either. But and then of course the other one was Joe Biden, and he of course is no friend of mine at all. But they made some exceptions for this law, and so the exceptions were that you, if you got a concealed carry permit from the state in which you lived, and that concealed carry permit then would allow you to carry your gun through the school zone. You could have your gun concealed in your car, on your person, whatever, and you could pass through the school zone. In fact, you could go onto the parking lot of the school, drop your kids off, pick your kids up, whatever, and you could be within 1,000 feet of the school, so you could pass through. Also, if you lived within 1,000 feet of the school, so your house butted up next to the school property, it was within 1,000 feet, you were exempt. And or if you were a security guard, or you were a police officer or something like that, then you were exempt from this law. And so they have divided it into two portions: carrying your gun and shooting your gun. So under the state's concealed carry law, in the state I live in, it allows me, under these federal exemptions, to carry my gun into the school zone. It allows me to drive, by the street, go in the parking lot, whatever. Okay, so because the school is in the state where I live. Now, outside of my state, then I'm not allowed to do that, because my permit is only for my state, and it only exempts me from the schools in my state. So carrying you could get away with if you have a permit, a concealed carry permit. If you don't have a concealed carry permit, then you can't even do that. You can't be within 1,000 feet. Now the other part of that is, we mentioned that they talked about carrying the gun. The other part of it is shooting the gun. So if you are going to discharge the gun within the 1,000-foot school zone, you're exempt if you're a police officer, if you're a security officer at the school or responding to something at the school, or you live within 1,000 feet of the school and your personal property is in that 1,000-foot zone, like your house is, fairly close to the school, it's within 1,000 feet. But you're exempt, it's your personal property. So if somebody breaks into your house, tries to hurt you or your family, then you can shoot because it's your personal property. But even though the state law, where I have a concealed carry permit, says that if I'm attacked in a place that I am legally able to be, which is school is an area where I'm legally able to be, I can respond with like force, and so I can fight back, I can shoot. But this federal law says that I cannot discharge the firearm in that zone. I can carry it in the zone because I have a concealed carry permit, but I cannot discharge it. The only people who can discharge or fire the gun is police officers, security officers, and that's it. So if I go to a school, now my kids are all grown and gone, but say I'm picking up my grandkids. So I go to the school, I pull in the parking lot, I'm there waiting to pick up the grandkids, and a car full of terrorists pulls up. They start unloading their AK-47s and everything, or some crazy stupid kid shows up with a AR-15 or some kind of gun, and he's, pulling out his magazines. He's going to go in there and do something bad. If I see that, challenge that person or those people and have to shoot them because we get in a battle, and I do it to save the lives of kids at that school, I'm going to federal prison because there is no exemption, there is no exception. So if I fire my gun and I'm not a cop or I'm not a security officer in that school zone, I'm toast. I'm gone. And they have actually prosecuted people. They've prosecuted female teachers and staff members who were assaulted in the parking lot after school by stalkers, ex-spouses, ex-boyfriends, whatever, that they had restraining orders against, and they were attacked and beaten in the parking lot, managed to get to their gun and shoot this guy who was trying to kill them. Well, they ended up in federal prison for 5 years because they violated this stupid federal gun law. So this federal gun-free school zone law really needs to go, and guys like Orrin Hatch and the other, you can call them Republicans, I don't really think they believe in freedom. They certainly don't believe in the Second Amendment. They certainly don't believe in self-defense rights. But you can lump all these Republicans, Democrats, and everybody else together into simply a bunch of guys that are completely uneducated on this, total politicians, political professionals, those guys, Biden and Hatch, that were involved in this law. Those guys are professional politicians. They've been in politics their entire life. They know nothing else. They certainly don't know about guns and personal protection, self-defense. Anyway, I don't know why all the years as people, have come and gone. Now, I know why the Bushes never bothered with this. Heck, the original law went in under Poppy Bush, so I'm sure I know why that he didn't say no to it. I certainly know why Bill Clinton and Barack Obama never said no. But I really hope that somebody talks to Donald Trump and says this is a stupid law, it needs to be done away with or fixed. Now, the way to fix it is to say that if you have a concealed carry permit from your state, you can not only carry the gun in the school zone, but if necessary, and you're under what's legal in your state for self-defense, that you can actually use that gun to defend yourself or others and fire that gun in the school zone. So it'd be very easy to do. You simply fix this law to say, not only can I carry the gun there, but I can use it if I have to. And if you're under what the state considers self-defense, justification, then you should be able to use it. So the federal government should not be exempting what the state says is legal. And in fact, that's what's going on. The state says it's legal for you to defend yourself. The federal government has said, no, it's illegal for you to do that because this is a school zone. Now, I did read something the other day that said almost all of the school shootings have happened since they passed this law. Now, I don't know if there's a one-to-one correlation there. They passed the law, everybody realizes it's a gun-free zone, so that's where they all go to shoot. I don't think necessarily that's the case. I think we just have a whole lot of people now who are disconnected from society, disconnected from families, disconnected from our school systems, disconnected from our communities, and this is their way of acting out. I think that's probably more like it. But you and I, law-abiding individuals who have gone and gotten a concealed carry permit, who have some training, should be able to protect themselves in schools. Now, the state I live in allows school districts, if they give permission, to actually allow teachers to be armed. And so if the school district allows armed teachers, then that is going to be an exception. But most of the school systems are all completely eaten up with liberals. So no school district's ever going to do that unless it's a very rural area. So, you know, these things need to be addressed. These problems need to be dealt with, and I think that you and I and all of us who are involved in this need to go to our political leaders and say, fix this and fix this now. So that's what I have to say about that, and I hope we can get it changed. Thanks.